Who'd have thunk I would ever be dismayed to hear you say that you love me?
I don't even know if that's a good word.
The mics are pretty sensitive, so... Oh, wow, look at that. You just set that cup down. I didn't...
You didn't hear it?
Well, barely. Maybe a little. Oh. That must be your tracking skills. Yeah, that's usually what I do, is leave things on the ground.
I'm good at being quiet.
All hail the men who can be quiet.
I was noticing on the treadmill, you're a bit of a stomper. I mean, I'm 50% your weight, and I was...
Oh, shit. The
maybe
heat's on?
half of the noise.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure my parents would appreciate you bringing that up and making jokes about it.
Yeah.
They'll be like, finally someone else understands. I'm a little girl. A little girl who spent a long time stifling her expression, and yeah, now I'm sometimes a little aggressive about it.
And it comes out through walking and running?
Not only.
Yeah.
Sometimes it comes out through trying to control my boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
That's me.
That is you. That's you.
Are we recording right now?
We are. Okay. We have been.
Nice.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone.
Welcome to the Naturally Rosy podcast. My name's Rose, and this is a special Valentine's Day edition. Because I'm sitting here with my Valentine.
That's nice.
A
holiday special.
Holiday special. Mr. Brandon Copeland.
Hello.
This is Brandon's first public debut, per se. He's, like he's alluded to, he's not much of a wave my flag, come look at me type person. He's more of a sit back, watch, and learn from the antics of other people who, like me, wave our flags and say, listen to what I have to say.
Mm-hmm.
I read a book a couple years ago called The Noticer. That was really good. Illustrated the power of that, of just sitting back and watching.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that.
Did I?
The other day. Yeah. You said, you're a noticer.
Uh-huh.
And I thought about writing stickers on people's doors as a notice. But you meant an observer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Town noticer.
Do you think Winchester would pay you for that?
Well, we had some type of noticer come by our house several months ago.
Yeah. That was, yeah. That was a different kind of noticing.
Yeah. About a leaky roof. Yeah, I like that. That makes sense. I observe things, take them in, kind of analyze them. I'm not the first one to go out and express my opinion about things just publicly and let everyone know about my business.
Mm-hmm. It does make a significant difference whether you're speaking to the mic or even just a little to the side.
So I should put your face there. Now I can talk to you and through the mic.
Uh-huh.
Is that...
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, one day all of these kinks will be ironed out and a better setup will be employed. Brandon's really good at going with the flow and appreciating the moment and where we're at. And that's really helpful for someone like me who has a tendency to live a little bit in the future vision and get agitated when that's not what's happening right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more like taking inputs, like observing the world, taking it all in, thinking about it. You know, it feels pretty good. And then a lot of times I forget to tell people what I've figured out. Like, oh yeah, that feels great, learning all these things, and then I just stop there without telling people what I've learned.
Isn't that the last step of the hero's journey?
Yeah, I just saw that yesterday. Is you're bringing home the gift. Yeah, I could definitely do that a little more.
How about we start with you sharing some of your story, whatever feels relevant, important, just to give some at least raw structure for who you are, why you are the way you are, how you ended up sitting in this office of our home where we live just outside St. Louis.
Story.
You are an excellent storyteller.
Yeah, one that wraps up my entire life up to this point. Yeah. Born in Georgia. Lived there till I was 9, I guess. So early formative years in a pretty nice suburb of Atlanta. Had plenty of friends, and then that pretty much started the moving to follow my dad's jobs. So I must have moved 7 times as a kid, you know, just in elementary school. Georgia, Tennessee. I made a big fuss about Tennessee because of the school system. You know, I was a pretty smart kid, and I knew it, I guess. And
I have no idea what that's like.
Yeah. And I didn't feel like the, Nashville schools were up to par for me. As a second grader, it doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, so to clarify, before you were 9, you moved to Nashville and then back to Georgia.
Yeah, back to Georgia. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're more familiar with the ages of grades.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
But yeah, I'm guessing around 9 years old when I finally left Georgia. So Tennessee, back to Georgia, and then to Virginia, which was great. Love Virginia. And but we still moved 3 times in Virginia. So lots of that in my younger years, moving around, making friends, losing friends, because of moving, and finally settled out in the country outside of just west of Richmond, Hanover County, around Goochland. I don't know why Goochland is becoming more popular these days. I've heard it in many things. That one guy who sings the Richmond north of Richmond. He's wearing a Goochland shirt. That's a fun county and town to say, Gooch. So ended up there out in the country.
Is it just me, or does Gooch sound like slang for pussy?
It's close. Okay. Yeah, it's actually the taint. So it's just a couple centimeters off. Yeah, and yeah, so out in the country, beautiful place. We had 5 acres, and my neighbor, who happened to be in the same grade as me, his family had 20 acres, and behind us was thousands of just undisturbed forest. And so that really influenced the early part of my life, was just playing in the woods, building forts, playing in the creek. Um, there were beavers back there. I mean, pretty big streams and stuff. And to a little kid, 1,000 acres is almost infinite. Every little nook and cranny is its own little adventure, or whatever it is for the day. And yeah, I met my best friend Michael in the woods. He had I was out playing with my sister. I have an older sister. She's about a year and a half older than me. And we're out playing in the woods, and I see this kid with a rat tail, overalls, and a hatchet. Just in
Classic.
the woods. Yeah, I stumble upon this guy. Yeah. How lucky was I, just to have same age, so we grew up together, playing in the woods, going to school, doing sports, all these things. It was a great childhood from that point on. I had lots of friends, and I was super happy being out in the country, not in the suburbs. We had also lived in an apartment a couple times. And yeah, it was good. Virginia's a beautiful place, and yeah, that took me through high school years. We did move once more to a different part of Hanover County, closer into Rockville, away from Goochland. And that was after my parents got divorced. That was probably around 12 years old, 13 years old. My dad just kept moving, and he ended up in New Jersey chasing another job, doing, managing manufacturing lines and stuff. And my parents had just had enough. It wasn't, well, in my recollection, it wasn't a very happy marriage. There was apparently some happiness before I was born, but afterwards I think it was a lot of money stress. We were never very financially secure, and that put a lot of stress on the relationship, it seems. Sure. And I always kind of inserted myself into the middle of any kind of arguments. And my sister nearly always was on my mom's side. So I was kind of the peacekeeper in all of this. Instead of taking a side and fighting it out, I would try to keep the peace. And yeah, that was an influence for who I am now, for sure. Yeah, did you have a question?
Just what you answered. Okay. What role were you playing?
Yeah, peacekeeper. Mm-hmm. Is that one of the roles?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then, me and my sister would kind of mimic our parents. I went through a pretty long phase where I hated my sister. Probably at or around the divorce, we're, young teenagers or something. And we just couldn't stand each other. Going from, almost best friends growing up, being the only consistent friends through all the moves and stuff, to kind of despising each other, fighting a lot.
Who was mimicking who? Was your sister taking after your mom or your dad?
Oh, I don't know. I think we had our own brand of whatever it was. Uh,
Some of both, probably
yeah,
for both of you.
yeah, yeah, we did. Yeah, we fought a lot. You know, a lot of times it was physical altercations. Um, but you know, what are you gonna do? It's
Pretty
when you're close
common
like that.
sibling stuff.
Yeah, when you're that close in age, and I think there's a natural push from your siblings, especially if they're the opposite sex. It just kind of makes sense. We're developing into teenagers and the hormones and stuff, and girls are gross, kind of thing, and that evolving into like being attracted to girls, and it all being very confusing. She was an easy target. I was an easy target. So, luckily I had a lot of great friends. I had good skills making friends, being that I moved a lot. And yeah, ended up with like a really cool crew. We had a crew. Out of my friend's house. This was kind of like the meeting point, and this was like
your neighbor, right?
So not so much my neighbor anymore, but a friend I met through school, and a different group, maybe like the like skater kids. Two brothers, and
you don't skate.
I don't skate. No, I didn't. But there was always an appeal to it. There was, the counterculture, or the more artistic vibe. I was attracted to it, and I was a nerd, I would say. Computer games. We were talking about The Sims earlier, and all the games that came before that, like SimCity, and so I was kind of a nerd, and I was more like cool kid adjacent, and there was a lot of cool kids hanging out over at this one house. And so I got in with that crowd, and yeah, we had a good group of friends, and that's kind of been a theme for a lot of my life, has been having a large group of friends with a lot of resources to share, a lot of different types of people. Always something going on, and so yeah, high school was great in that way. We had a cool hang. We'd be hanging out in the barn, trying new things. They had some older cousins that would give us weed, or maybe some beers, or we'd sneak some alcohol from the parents, like the classic kind of thing, and we'd go hang out in the barn, or over by the half pipe, or down at the pond. Just a good country upbringing. That's what I can say there, and a good group of friends.
And you stayed close to home after high school, at first. Close-ish.
Yeah, after high school, I went to Virginia Tech, and which is a 3-hour drive into the mountains of Virginia, and yeah, studied engineering because I was good at math and science. And I actually went with my friend Josh, who it was his house that we kind of grew up at. And yeah, so kind of kept that friend group going for all through the college years, and then afterwards as well.
You were really attracted, was it to Josh's family because of the stability
Yeah.
you saw there? Yeah.
Yeah, so I was always eating dinner over there. There was kind of a running joke. If I wasn't already around, as soon as they would start serving dinner, I would come through the door. Like, hey, what are y'all doing? What do you think we're doing? We're eating dinner. Like, it was, I had this sense about me. I don't know how. I just kind of stumbled into it. But yeah, I was always joining them for dinner. And, yeah.
You were a wildly in tune child to, as you've told me, just recognize that your household didn't have the best stability,
Mm-hmm.
and to seek that out other places.
Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't, getting what I needed at my house. I could find it in other places.
So you and Josh went to Virginia Tech.
Yep. Yeah, we were, what was that, dorm mates? And then, after freshman year, we got an apartment together, a townhouse, with 2 other guys from the same high school. So, you grow up, you go to high school in a country place, and you all kind of stick together. Oh yeah, you're here at the big school? Come on and hang out. Yeah.
You got more into
college years.
Yeah, you became more of a rebel, even more of a rebel, as I remember it.
Yeah, more of a rebel.
Rock and roller.
Yeah.
Masquerading as a hippie.
I had long hair. I dressed in, flannels and button-down shirts, or, like the pearl snap button shirts. Those were pretty cool. I had some Wrangler shirts. Yeah, I was very open. Well, that's when I had a shirt on. I don't know. I think I existed for maybe a decade without a shirt on. Just hanging out, taking in everything, being the observers. So much to observe at college. And and that theme of just having a large group of friends around, it kept going. Moved into this place called Clover Valley up in Blacksburg, Virginia, and it was just these grouping of townhomes in a U shape. The neighborhood was in a U, and so on either side of the U was townhomes facing inwards on the road, and everyone would just come out of their townhomes and say hi to each other and party, and a big diverse group of people, because you never know what you're gonna get. It was just a random assortment, and we all came together in this beautiful fashion and made a community. And it seemed like it just keeps getting better and better. Just an evolution of good times and learning to be independent, because all that is, it's pretty scary, going away from home and becoming an adult. It's kind of scary, choosing what you want to be, because that's the big, what are you going to do in college? Well, I don't know. I'm just a kid. You told me if I was good at school, I'd be good at life, but now I have to make this decision. It was always just do good in school and, learn all these things, but never learn how to make your own decisions and figure out who you are. There wasn't a whole lot of that until college. And it was just wide open all of a sudden. So it was good to have the support of a nice community. To get to see all the different types. All the different destinations or pathways. time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a big difference between our adolescent years and early 20s. Similarities. I mean, we were both like finding ourselves, and yours was much more stable than mine.
Yeah. What was not so stable about yours?
The feeling that grew over time that I was like always in a very primal way fighting for my life. Always on guard against the anxiety attacks that would come up in religion class. I'm just throwing it out. They would happen in every class. Doing things like cutting or burning my skin, and not feeling in control of that, and feeling like scared and exhilarated that I liked it. Feeling very out of control of my feelings, and very dependent on doctors and therapists and my parents to manage me. And at the same time, being a person who, through my childhood, was very independent. Very independent, very intelligent, very mature, abnormally so. And so then suddenly feeling very crippled, very limited, felt very unstable. And then, yeah, the climb out of that hole and into finding stability was exciting and treacherous per se in ways. A lot of experimentation, a lot of learning to rely on myself. You know, a theme that you spoke to. A lot of figuring out how to be in relationship with other people and what supportive relationships looked like, because often the people who were most easily accessible to me through my life were not the best influences for, in a variety of ways. Until later. And yeah, let's see. From 21 and especially like 22, 23, it did start to get better and better, and in large part to my perspective, because the people in my life started suggesting to me that it could get better, when for so long I had so many medical professionals telling me basically like, this is it, like this is your struggle, we're gonna do the best we can to help you, and there are these elusive potential remedies, but like, this is life for you. And my parents giving me a lot of support and sympathy, but not much hope. Not much hope beyond what the doctors had told them. So for me, the sense of stability came in through, one, like hearing other people suggest to me, like, hey, like, it can get better. Like either them telling me, like, I've been where you've been and it got better for me, right? Or enlightening me to new ideas that gave me hope, that shed a whole new perspective on how life could be, and trusting that I could build that stability inside myself, rebuild it, instead of kind of surrendering to the very depressing perspective that I interpreted, at least from a lot of doctors, that I would just continue to be unstable, at least until we found this like perfect cocktail of medications.
Right, this was the time that you were pretty deep in the medical system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a lot of that part of my journey was investing my sense of stability into other people. Like, I'm going to rely on you to help me feel stable. And I didn't realize, maybe as early as you did, that the only way for me to really feel stable would be to find that within myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't know how much of that I had early on, you know. I was certainly surrounding myself with quality individuals, and that could be partially luck.
Mm-hmm.
I just got lucky. Like, how did I end up, finding my best friend in the woods in the middle of, nowhere? And, some of that maybe was the awareness that something better's out there. Let's go find it. Let's surround myself with it. Or when I, found something that was good, holding on to it, really sticking with it,
mm-hmm.
Committing to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the luck is preparedness meets opportunity. And it seems to me like you were prepared, right? Not only to say yes to this cool kid you met in the woods, but to like explore the woods. Like you knew that you had enough regulation to appreciate that like the woods felt better than living in an apartment. Mm-hmm. Right? And yeah, the parts of that you didn't have control over were your parents moved to the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, how much further do you want to go down this?
Oh,
my life in a nutshell road.
Yeah. Well, you don't need to go into so much detail. I'd like you to get to current times.
Okay. Yeah, so I studied engineering. I had a great time at Virginia Tech. Decent education. I studied environmental engineering and came out of it, did a road trip. That was the rebellious part of me. Like, I don't want to be part of society just yet. So I bought a van with questionable funds. And hopped in with my girlfriend, picked up my stepbrother. My dad had remarried at this time. Picked up my stepbrother, who was, he is like 7 or 8 years older than me, and just started driving around the country. Took the southern route. Had a great time for 3 months, just seeing everything. I wanted to learn more. I wanted to know more, Mm-hmm. People had talked about the West, and, I had read, Jack Kerouac. I guess these were my Kerouac days. And was interested in just finding that adventure out on the road, and kind of seeing what's out there, seeing the West. I made it out to California and up the coast, and Yeah. Was looking for, where I wanted to settle down or like find a place that was happening, you know. Became a little disillusioned with the West. I felt as though it was a lot more show than genuine. I felt this, and I felt like I had been, my group of friends spectacular, and were very genuine people. So I was very lucky in that way. And when, I got to meet people putting on airs or something, I thought, what is this? This doesn't make sense to me. Why do you have to act like you're cool? Can't you just be cool? So ended up not liking the West Coast and made my way back to Virginia. But through some miracle, got a job as an engineer. I had $20 left to my name, of those questionable funds. Spent that on groceries so I could eat, and, ended up getting an interview with the president of this engineering company, small engineering company in Mechanicsville, Virginia, which is still in Hanover County, just north of Richmond, and got a job. Just, that road trip had inspired me in so many ways, and all I had to do was talk to the president of that company, and he thought, wow, this guy's got a good head on his shoulders, good education, and he gave me a job there on the spot. He was like, yeah, this will be your office. You get to run our GIS department, which was small, and it wasn't, there wasn't much going on there. So I pretty much got to start their GIS department at the engineering firm, which was really fun, and I learned a lot. Worked as an engineer for a bit, pursuing a professional engineer certification, and but it came with a lot of office work, so I got a little disenchanted with that after a while. That sense of adventure, that flame started dying, and I thought, I'm still in my early 20s. That doesn't have to be extinguished yet. I was seeing the career path of a professional engineer.
The 9 to 5.
The 9 to 5. And I thought, man, the more I move up in this career path, there's just more work I have. I was looking at the professional engineers above me, and they're working like 60 hours. And I was like, well, that's what I get for continuing this. I don't think I'm ready for it. And seriously, they couldn't have been a nicer place. It was a great place. The people were amazing. The owners, they made sure that their employees were taken care of, and it was a fun workplace. It wasn't just about getting the job done. It was, they were investing in their employees and in their happiness. It was the easiest, engineering job. Maybe the most exciting engineering job, and the most fulfilling. So,
but you left it.
Even that I couldn't do it. Too much office work. So, I left that. Did another little road trip to Minnesota, some farming, with friends. Got another, dabbled in engineering again as a stormwater engineer, and somehow or another ended up with a remote recruiting job. So I was working as a recruiter remotely, and decided it would be a good time to see what the rest of the world has to offer. So started traveling a bit: Mexico, Belize, Iceland. Ended up in Puerto Rico. So found Puerto Rico, really loved it, and had a remote job so I could just start working from anywhere. And so I worked as a recruiter from the jungle of Puerto Rico in the central part of the island.
This is like 26.
Yeah, 2015. Yeah, 2015, 2016. Quickly,
the job didn't last long.
Quickly found I didn't need to work at this level of happiness. I could just exist, kind of. You know, I mean, I'm talking, you're seeing a rainbow from a mountaintop every day. You know, living in the jungle where it has this like rhythm to it of like, you know, it rains at 1 o'clock every day, and so you go inside and, you know, take a nap, and it rains hard, like you can't do anything, so you get all your work done before 1 o'clock, and then go inside, read a book, take a nap, listen to music. It just had this really great rhythm to it, and totally forgot about civilization at all. I mean,
started doing other work. Yeah.
Other work.
Yeah, working on the farm of the people you were living with.
Yeah. So, you know, general maintenance of, it was kind of a kind of like an eco retreat, Airbnb style. So they had just down the mountain there was the ocean, and so they had a beach house and kind of a jungle bungalow thing, and so people could rent these places to get away, right? And yeah, so maintaining all that, I mean, just trying to maintain anything in the jungle is a full-time job, because everything's alive there. So yeah, just forgetting about civilization for like a year and a half. I mean, and what's happening at this? Oh, Trump got elected. I couldn't care less about anything going on, because my days were so fulfilled, and, you know, tangible things, doing things with my hands felt great. That's kind of always been a theme for me, that interacting with the environment feels really good. So, you know, there was always like a daily mission, you know, like we got to go up and we got to clear this trail, or these trees fell over in the last storm, we got to go cut those down. You know, you had these missions over this 30 acres of mountain and stuff. So, you know, that covered my room and board. I had purchased a real crappy house in Richmond before I had left, and fixed it up so it was livable. Nobody wanted to buy this place. It was disgusting. You couldn't spend more than 5 minutes in there without getting a headache from like the smell of I don't know what the
Mold,
last guy
something.
did. Yeah, and cat pee, and it was bad. So people would step in there and they would just run away. But me and my buddy,
Not you.
No, me and my buddy Andrew, we got ourselves a real weird real estate agent, and he was like, "Smells like money." I was like, "All right, I'm in. I can do this." So I had purchased that house and fixed it up, and so I was actually
you were making
collecting
money.
rent.
Yeah,
I was collecting rent. Was getting room and board covered. You know, hanging out in the jungle and doing all those cool things.
And then the hurricane?
And then, before the hurricane, I got lonely. I had been in the jungle for a year and a half, and it was all great, seeing rainbows every day. But it turns out it's nicer to have someone to enjoy that rainbow with, in my opinion. So, I was experiencing all these great things daily, but didn't really have anyone to share it with. And it finally got to a point I was like, well, I got all this time. I'm doing all this reading. Why don't I just do something practical with it? So I picked up I started pursuing a master's program in theoretical physics in Mayaguez, Puerto Rico, at the University of Puerto Rico. And I was thinking, well, this is a great thing. I love physics. If anyone hasn't watched the series The Cosmos by Carl Sagan, it's probably one of the most inspirational series ever created on the universe and the Earth, and the cosmos, everything. He's a genuine inspirational guy. He's also really great to fall asleep to. His voice is very soothing. So anyways, I was greatly inspired by Carl Sagan and thought, wow, this is something I'm actually passionate about. I got the time. Let's pursue it. Let's do the hardest thing possible. Theoretical
you like
physics.
doing that, don't you?
Yeah. Let's pursue a master's degree in theoretical physics in Spanish, which I am awful at languages. So I was doing that, and I was making friends down there because the people of Puerto Rico are amazing. They're smart, good-looking, friendly, and of course they all also speak English as well as Spanish. And but all the classes were in Spanish. But I did end up making some friends, and that started pushing me away from the jungle. I was like, I'm getting pulled towards being back in civilization, which, was just a 40-minute windy road down the mountain. Not too far. Maybe 15 miles as the crow flies. Took you 40 minutes, though. And so I ended up moving down. That contrast of all these friends, all these people having friends down in the college, and a little taste of civilization again, back into my the jungle started seeming very lonely. So I moved down. Boom! Immediately hit by a hurricane.
What did you do? You brought the hurricane.
Yeah, so I moved down to civilization, and then Hurricane Irma comes across, which, I don't know, maybe the biggest hurricane ever recorded. It didn't hit land. It just skimmed across the top of Puerto Rico. But just the little tendrils of it was enough to, knock out power for weeks on the island. And did a decent amount of damage. Knocked a whole bunch of trees down. And then, that takes a couple weeks to recover from. And then Hurricane Maria just uppercuts the island. Damn. Class 5, just, one of the hurricanes went high. Puerto Rico ducked, in a boxing kind of metaphor. Okay, Puerto Rico ducks Irma just to get uppercut by Maria. And it really did. I mean, it knocked the socks off the island. I mean, there wasn't a leaf, there wasn't a palm frond left on the entire island. It went from, you could, living up in the hills and stuff, you can see a little bit, you can see your neighbors and stuff, to where after the hurricane you could see the ocean. You could see for miles and miles of the ocean. You're like, man, this view's great now. Because there was just nothing. There was huge mudslides. Almost all the wooden structures got destroyed. But, a lot of the people of Puerto Rico were prepared. They had another hurricane 10 years before that wiped out all the wooden homes, and they converted over to concrete builds. So a lot of people were ready. But yeah, I started volunteering. I made my way into town. So I was already living on the coast in this little town called Rincon, a little surf town. And after the hurricane, I got in my Jeep, a big Jeep Cherokee, 6-inch lift, big 33-inch tires. Driving over debris. This was my jungle ride. This thing was sweet. Driving over whole trees and stuff to get into town, just because I had friends up in the jungle who needed help. I was like, I'm on a mission. I need to find a chainsaw. Someone's got a chainsaw in town, and I know how to use it. I'm gonna go find one. And ended up going to the brewery, because that's kind of the meeting point for people. There was a small little brewery in town, and they're like, all the refrigerators are off. We have to drink all this beer. And I'm like, all right. Well, I think I can help you. And, people started gathering there, and, kind of organically, we started kind of forming a team of people that are capable of doing things, and started a nonprofit. And we're sending out 2 crews daily to go fix roofs, throw on tarps, clear trees out of the roads and off of houses. And we did a ton of work getting the town ready way before FEMA got there. I mean, weeks before FEMA got there, we were already taking action. We had already gotten tons of supplies donated, money donated. I got that chainsaw I was looking for. And a lot of, where I learned how to use a chainsaw was after Maria. I had a good understanding of the machines from felling trees in the jungle, but I got some real experience on a saw there. Ended up going back to Virginia after this. So spent
Why did
one
you
more
leave?
year and a half down there. I left Puerto Rico because it was a struggle. It wasn't easy. Finding a good job, a well-paying job down there, was difficult. And although every day was exciting, it wasn't without its stress. So there wasn't a whole lot of stability there.
Not much to build on.
No. Not much to build on.
So you went back. Had you met Joe?
I did. I met my best friend Joe down there. He was actually involved in getting that chainsaw.
Oh.
It actually came from Missouri to the island that I was using, that I ended up using to help my friends.
So you'd met Joe, you moved back to Virginia, you left the master's program.
Yeah, left the master's program. I found something more fulfilling in that community that formed after the hurricane. I was what I was looking for, to be part of something, to be useful, to actually have a purpose. And boom, instantly after that hurricane, I was part of a community again.
You went back to Virginia.
Yeah. So kind of got called back to Virginia. Me and my buddy, we decided that it was time to sell our house. So back to Virginia, fix up the house for 8 months. So another kind of dove back into the cave, of being by myself and working on something. I worked on that house. I got it in ship shape. And after 8 months or something, it was a lot of work. a lot of work daily. It was like sitting, there was no furniture. I had a bed that I had gotten from my friends, but like everything else was like you sit on a bucket or, on a bench.
You were living there.
I was living there while fixing it, At times I didn't have a toilet. Because I had to fix the entire bathroom, rip it all out. Yeah, but I ended up doing a great job on the house and I sold it. And
for a nice profit.
Nice profit. Really was. Most cash I've ever seen in my bank account. And I'm thinking, I'm going to live large now. This was so much work. I feel great. And I sell my house right as COVID hits. My idea is I'm going to go back to the island. Now that I have monetary resources, I don't have to worry about money for a while, which was a real struggle down there. And COVID hits. I get the last airplane back onto the island, back onto the west coast of the island, into Aguadilla. Like, they shut the airport down, like, immediately after I got there. And, or at least they were only doing, like, special flights. There was no, like, just regular commercial flights. And, Puerto Rico was able to survive Maria and actually become stronger after the hurricane. I think COVID just destroyed the island. Everyone, because no one could come together. There was no, like, hey, we're going to survive this together. It was everyone separate. Don't even talk to your neighbors. Don't go out on the beach. It was a totally different vibe. I'm coming in thinking, if there's an apocalypse, I know just the people to survive it with because we did the hurricane. And they, divide and conquer. Everyone was separated, couldn't see anyone. No one trusted each other. Everyone was kind of thinking, oh, you're going to kill my grandmother kind of thing. If you cough on me. The police were arresting people for going for walking on the beach. They had curfews. They went hard. They thought that they could just stop it from getting on the island, and then they would be in some sort of safe haven
by keeping people off the beach.
Yeah,
that makes sense. That makes so much sense.
Yeah, fresh air was the worst thing that they could think of. So I feel like most people just kind of stayed inside and drank. I think most people just kind of drank, which is not very healthy.
You met back up with Joe.
Yeah. Yep, good friends with Joe at this point, and he had enough of the island at that point too. And so I saw the writing on the wall that it just wasn't going to work. So, I got my Jeep taken away from me from the authorities. And I thought, well, that's
because y'all were out on the beach.
Because we were out of the beach. Yeah, I thought that's about it. I think this has gone far enough. I'll see you later, Puerto Rico. And Joe decided to do the same thing. He left, took his family on a big road trip, which maybe he'll tell you about one day. And yeah, circling back.
You left. Where'd you go?
I ended up in Denver to buy a van. I was like, screw this. If society's gonna be messed up, well, I'm not playing your games. I'm just gonna get a van and do the road trip thing. I'll find somewhere that's sane. So I ended up in Denver for that with my buddy who I just sold the house with. Get this cool camper van. Fix it up because I'm good at that now. I can fix things. After 8 months of whatever, and then of fixing my house and living in the jungle, having to fix all of our own stuff. I'm good at fixing stuff, so like, all right, I'll make this an investment. I buy a van, and it's in bad condition, and I start fixing it up so I can go on a road trip. end up meeting a great woman there while I was there fixing the van, and drove the van to Minnesota, whatever, and catch a plane back to Denver to visit this woman. And while I'm there for a weekend, with just a backpack and some blue jeans, I get my friend across from me gets a phone call, and one of his buddies is looking for someone who knows how to run a chainsaw and can help him out with some tree work. And I'm like, well, you know what? I kind of like this place. I kind of like Denver. This is fun. This is a good group of friends. I can run a chainsaw. I brought some boots. Let's do it. And that pretty much starts my career as an arborist. Turns out I got a knack for doing tree work. And I was working with my friend pretty closely. He owned the company, and I was second in command, leading the crew daily. I worked from just, when you start tree work, you usually just pick up sticks. So you pick up the sticks, there's someone with more experience up in the tree, and you just kind of run the chipper, It's a very humbling job. Mm-hmm. Pick up sticks. Very zen. And I had an interest in it, so anytime we would hire professional climbers and stuff often, but I would start asking questions because I was interested. And I'm like, well, how's this work? And I get to learn how to do all the ropes. I get to see what they're doing up in the tree. Different pruning techniques, different ways of safely removing a tree from a yard, and I'm just absorbing everything. And after 1 year of being on the ground, I start climbing. I've learned enough to where I know exactly what to do in the 5 species of tree that exist in Denver. I know exactly what to do, how to treat these trees, what the risks are, different techniques for climbing. I'm just learning rapid fire as I go. And I get to do everything because it's just me, the owner, and maybe 1 or 2 other guys daily. So it's like we all have to do everything. So it was a real quick way of learning the industry. And, also we're doing we're making it up as we go. We're getting in over our heads, which you learn real fast when you do that. It was a great introduction to the tree industry.
And what a cool way to circle back around to your childhood love of nature, and to bring in that engineering mindset, because you're not just good at tree work, you are great at the manual labor, but you're also, I jokingly call you a tree doctor. You have a sense for trees as what they are, as living beings, as parts of our shared ecosystem. You're very sensitive to and knowledgeable about what they need and how humans can be in relationship with them in order to help everyone flourish.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it gets to a point to where at a glance I can kind of prescribe the tree. Mm-hmm. and like you said, in a way that its interaction with the human environments is is like symbiotic. It's working together with the tree, because the trees can't move. They can't pick up and find a new home. That's where they are. And we move a lot. Mm-hmm. We change a lot of things. And so the trees that are around us need to be adjusted to fit those kinds of environments. And yeah, my tree pruning, of course, this is an industry and a skill that is it's almost infinite in scope. The complexities of a tree and all the different scenarios that it can be in the environment.
It is like doctoring humans.
It's a very complex system. And
maybe not quite at the scale of humans, but,
yeah,
but there's...
we have emotions.
Yeah. Some of us do.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a science and it's an art, and there's so much to know, but the amount of experience that I got it was 3 years in Denver doing trees. At a glance I could look at a white ash and just know a prescriptive pruning. I would know exactly what I needed to do to make that tree look amazing, and for it to also be, very healthy, like very functioning in its place with the humans. Yeah, it's a science and an art. So yeah, that's what I learned in Denver in the tree care industry there, and pursued becoming a certified arborist through the International Society of Arboriculture, which was, getting the experience, applying, getting approved, with your application, with reviews and everything, and then taking the test. So yeah, I really found a great interest in the tree care, and I just stumbled upon it. I never really thought I would go from being an engineer to an arborist. So there's a lot to it, though. It keeps me on my toes with the amount of knowledge out there. So as a great observer, or as a what did you call it?
A noticer.
A noticer. It's a great field to be in, because it's deep. There's a lot to it. Just cutting trees off your house is kind of just the tip of an iceberg to, what's the tree doing? How's it interacting? What kind of processes are going on in there? So it's very fulfilling learning about all this stuff, and it's exciting to me.
As we get into wrapping up this first half of the conversation, wrapping up. Oh shit! I just realized I said the wrong. I just recorded that episode with Brett yesterday, and I announced the numbers of the episodes out of order. That's okay. Learning a lot. Yeah, you brought up when you get in over your head, you learn a lot. That's my style. Just keep going in over my head. I'll learn a lot. So this will actually be episode 20. And as we wrap up episode 20, I want to give you space to share a few things, recommendations generally for anyone who has trees under their care, under their supervision. Anything you'd recommend to those people? I know there's a lot that you talk to me about what homeowners, people who run HOAs, etc., office owners don't know about tree care. So here's a little slice for you to educate them.
Yeah. So I would say be a good steward of your tree. They're a valuable asset. If you're lucky enough to have a mature tree in your backyard, that's irreplaceable in your lifetime. You can spend 300, $500 on a 2 to 3 inch sapling that will be that size in 80 years. It's not something you can just replace. So be a good steward. Get to know your tree, and get an expert out there to look at it. Most tree companies do free estimates. You can call them out there and find a company that is insured and certified. They should have some certifications if they care about trees. It's not really that hard. Get someone out there that's insured for sure, and get them to look at it. They're at a glance, just like how I can do it. They know what's going on with your tree, and they can make good recommendations for taking care of it. Don't follow the guys that are just there. They see your tree as a bunch of dollar signs. They're gonna say, "Oh yeah, it's a big scary tree. You should remove it," because they're gonna get $8,000 off you, and they're going to destroy a resource that is not replaceable in your backyard.
How can people pick out those tree workers from others? They're not insured always.
They'll probably come knocking on your door after a storm and tell you how dangerous your tree is. They'll be the cheapest by far. Typically you can pretty easily get 3 quotes for your tree if you need tree work. And one of those is going to be significantly lower than the others. And I want to say it's probably best to not go with that one. Generally, professionals, they have a good understanding for what the market is, and they'll be similar priced. And so those will be probably your quality companies. There's also associations like the St. Louis Arborists Association. They kind of have higher standards and can vet the tree companies. There's also the International Society of Arboriculture, ISA, and TCIA. Good companies are going to be members of those, and they're going to have good ethics and stuff. But yeah, really just get to know your tree. See it as an asset. And if you have young trees, well, even better, because big structural problems can be solved much easier early on in a tree's life than when it's mature. So if you got a mature tree, take care of it. If you got young trees, set them off in the right path. Get them trimmed up pretty early, correct any problems, and they're gonna flourish. They'll be a good tree for you for a long time.
Great.
Yeah.
Yay. Do you want to shout out your current company?
Yeah, I work for Metropolitan Forestry Services in the West County, St. Louis area. They're working on 50 years in the industry in St. Louis. I'm constantly impressed with the quality work that we do, with how Megan, the owner of the company, how she treats her employees, her ethics, and her dedication to the tree care industry and to trees.
She's the president of the St. Louis Arborists Association.
That's right. She's also the president of the St. Louis Arborists Association. And she does a lot of good work around town as far as promoting ethical tree care. And there's a lot of challenges to that. She takes a lot of the weight. She takes on quite a big challenge there with trying to trying to keep the standards high for the tree care industry in St. Louis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. Yeah. Cool. I'm guessing that y'all will go do quotes, free quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, typically.
Yeah. So if you're in the St. Louis area, not just West County, they do work all over. And you have some tree work that needs to be done or might need to be done, or you just haven't had a checkup on your trees in a while. Again, we're fans around here of preventative health care, including for your trees. You can call Metropolitan Forestry Services or a comparable company and find out what's going on.
And the St. Louis Arborists Association, they have a great list of companies. Any members of the St. Louis Arborists Association are good quality companies.
Great, excellent. Yeah. So we're gonna wrap up here. Episode 20 of the Naturally Rosy podcast. Brandon and I will continue to sit down and chat, get into episode 21. That episode will be more personal, more Brandon can share with us maybe how he ended up moving to St. Louis and we can talk a little about how we met and some of what's been going on in our relationship since, and how we're navigating it, because like all of you, we are very human and have our own challenges, both as ourselves and in relationships. So we'll dive into some of that juicy stuff. In episode 21. For now, get outside, keep laughing, and give someone, maybe yourself, a big old hug today. And you'll hear from us soon.
Thanks, Rose.